everybody. Welcome to our presentation on financial products and services. My name is Janine Folan, and along with my colleague John Borthwick, we will be reviewing the different financial products and services for you today. We'll be taking questions and hope that you find benefit in this webinar today. So we're glad to have you. I'm going to ask John to introduce himself first. So go ahead, John.
Hey everyone, my name is John. I am the Housing and Financial Counselor at the Uptown Chicago branch. I've been with the housing counseling for just shy of 4 years now, and pretty much covered all topics in counseling and have just really loved working with people and working in financial education. So excited to be here today.
Thank you. Okay, well, my name, as I said, is Janine Folan, and I am actually Great Lakes Credit Union's newest housing and financial counselor. But while I am new to GLCU, I have been in this business for 10 years, and I really enjoy helping people resolve whatever financial difficulties they are facing and start the next chapter of their financial life, or just move forward in their financial life. Well, all members of our counseling team have offices scattered throughout the Chicagoland area. Most of our appointments are, actually since the pandemic, of course, most of our appointments are done by phone, and the only requirement to have an appointment with a counselor is to reside in the states of Illinois or Wisconsin, or simply be moving to one of those states. A couple little quick housekeeping notes. We do have a sign-in form when you utilize the sign-in form, and I believe John has that link in the chat. So that's where you can click on that link. It will take you right to the sign-in form. Signing in proves to our credit, our grantors, the people who give us money to provide free webinars, that we have people coming to our webinars, that people find it valuable, and they will continue to give us money so we can continue to provide free webinars. So that sign-in form is beneficial to both you and to us. For filling out the sign-in form, we do have a couple of gifts we're going to give you. We're going to give you a questionnaire that will help you decide which financial products are right for you, and a document that describes the purpose of various products, how they work, and where to get them. So that's for filling out that sign-in form. You can do that during the presentation. You can do that after the presentation. I will also be sending out an email with that link to everyone who registered. And so that's really, really important. We will be taking questions, as I mentioned. We're asking that you use the chat box for questions. So that's the easiest way for us to manage this. You put your questions right into the chat box, and we plan on answering those questions at the end of the presentation. So that we can get through the presentation, make sure we get through the entire presentation, and then we'll be answering questions. And everybody is muted at this particular point. If for some reason you find yourself unmuted, please put yourself back on mute. We found that background noises coming from individual participants are very obvious and noticeable to the other participants, even more so to yourself. So that's just one of the things we've learned. So if you mute yourself, keep yourself on mute should you come off mute. That will be really helpful to making the presentation flow. So John and I are counselors in the Housing and Financial Counseling Agency that is inside of Great Lakes Credit Union. So we are HUD approved, and what that means is we get our funding from HUD or from the state or from other grants, and we operate as an objective third party solely to benefit our clients. So basically, that means that we don't sell GLCU products. We are there to educate and inform and assist Our purpose is to improve the stability and quality of life of families and communities by providing education and counseling in the areas of financial management, tenancy, home ownership, and foreclosure intervention. I want to tell you about the different areas that we cover of what we do, our services as our housing counseling agency. We provide financial education. Of course, we do monthly webinars on a variety of topics. We did one last year on financial management, appealing your property taxes, how to save money during the holidays, or just plan for your holiday spending. We have webinars on debt. They cover all kinds of different topics, and they're always free. All of our services are free. Matter of fact, talking to a counselor is free. The only one of our services that we charge for is we have an online first-time homebuyers class. Our class, of course, is generic information. When you do a counseling session with a counselor, we are focusing on your individual situation and what works best for you. So our financial counseling covers, how to build credit. And with that, we actually do a soft pull of your credit report. Soft pulls do not hurt your credit score. The report that we pull contains the scores and account history from the 3 main credit bureaus. We also teach our clients how to resolve debt issues and how to develop a sustainable budget. For the rental counseling services, we help our clients find affordable housing, and we understand what rental programs they do qualify for. We review tenant and landlord rights and responsibilities, and also deal with issues like avoiding eviction or how to deal with an impending eviction. Very important that everyone understands their rights in those situations. Of course, we have a lot going on now due to the pandemic, so really important. We work with prospective home buyers in the area of pre-purchase. We help them understand the buying process. A lot of moving parts in that process. Determine how much house they can afford, what type of loan is appropriate for them, learn about the down payment assistance programs that are available, and help them get in touch with home buying professionals who can assist them at various stages of the process. For homeowners, issues like insurance, remodeling, or refinancing could come up in those sessions. And we also do, for homeowners, foreclosure intervention. So if you are in danger of, or maybe someone is in danger of, or actively facing foreclosure, we can walk you through your options, help you work with your loan servicer, and explore in-house or staying in the house, whatever is best for you. So we can help you explore those options. We are working closely with the state of Illinois. We are one of their housing stability service providers, which means we're helping out with their assistance programs for the state's rental assistance program, which is happening right now. The program is open for applications through January 9th. We will be assisting with the homeowners assistance fund. too many words assistance there, but anyway, we're going to be helping out with that when that program gets off the ground, probably sometime in early spring. And we are also helping out with the Cook County Mortgage Foreclosure Mediation Program. So we're pretty busy. Just to let you know, when our clients come to see us, they leave our counseling sessions with a lot of knowledge, a copy of their credit report for free, and a budget and a plan of action to reach their goals. So our clients do leave our sessions with quite a bit of good information. So today, I would like to know from the participants, what particular products or services would you like more information about? Some of them may be topics that we are covering, and some may be topics we hadn't planned to cover, but we could answer questions for you if we have that knowledge. We never answer questions about things that we don't have the knowledge on. We would, in that case, probably do some research for you, but you can use the chat for your questions or just to tell us what products or services you would like more information on. So we want to make sure we're covering your particular questions. John is going to be monitoring the chat box. So if you have anything in particular that you would like to make sure you get an answer on, please feel free to put that now into the chat box. Just going to be monitoring that chat box, as I said, and he's going to be letting us know what products or service you have concerns about. We are going to cover a lot of territory today. Yes, I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
Actually.
Okay.
What is the best way to get a credit card if you don't have credit? So we will cover that for sure. We'll be going over the credit card section, and I'll definitely be talking about how you use it to establish credit and what kind of card you might be taking out if you don't have credit yet.
Good question. Very good question. Important question for today's world for sure. Yes, so we'll be, as John said, we'll be covering that. But I'm glad you asked that question. Anything else, John?
Somebody asked about information about the Homeowners Assistance Fund, which they've been monitoring on the IDA homepage for the past month. Regarding that, if you have been monitoring the IDA homepage, you probably noticed that they have extended it to late winter 2022, possibly early spring. Basically, what it comes down to is the State Housing Authority is ready. They've got the program together. It's just a matter of when they're finally cleared for U.S. Treasury funds. All of the state housing authorities, that's pretty much it. It's just when they're specifically going to be getting that. And that's been kind of the frustration there, is that initially the timeline was supposed to be fall of 2021, and now it's been extended. So we just have to kind of wait until we get more of an answer.
Yes. We're all waiting with bated breath for that assistance. Anything else, John?
I think that's it.
Okay, great. That gives us that go ahead to get into our presentation for today. And so financial products and services, go ahead and get started. We have a lot of ground to cover. So financial products and services are the tools that you will use to store and access money, make payments and purchases, send money to other people or businesses, pay for purchases over time, or also grow your money. Some examples of those products include checking and savings accounts, prepaid and payroll cards, government benefit and EBT cards, credit cards, as we said we're covering, loans. Loans I'll be covering also in loans, a way to build credit, bill payment services, and money or wire transfers. So finding the right product for you is really, the way to go about that would be to first start to think about what is the reason you need one. So you make sure that you're getting a product that actually fulfills your purpose. Maybe you want a secure place to put your money. Maybe you don't want to carry cash with you all the time. Maybe you're saving for a particular goal or goals. Maybe you're saving for unexpected expenses or emergencies. Maybe you want a convenient way to pay your bills or to access your money. Maybe you want a loan to buy a car or a house. Or maybe you're trying to repair your credit or simply build a credit history. Maybe you just want to improve your credit scores. Some of the companies don't give you a credit score until you have a certain amount of history available. So building a history can be very, very important. So that's one of the most important things to do, is to think about, why do I want to, what is my purpose? What do I want to do? Okay, and we're going to start right into the products themselves. And John, he will be taking over this first topic of checking and savings accounts.
Okay, so checking and savings accounts, this is kind of one of the real basic starting points we can talk about as far as how to be managing money and saving it up. So kind of the purpose of this would be, it's a secure place to be storing your money and it creates a history. Like you're getting bank statements. You're able to actually, have tracking as far as like what you've paid for, what deposits have happened. It is basically a history there. Can provide growth by earning interest. That gets into more specific types of savings accounts, but it can be getting a little bit depending on what you're using as far as the checking and savings. But most of the time, like not gaining a lot of interest. It's more about just like the liquidity and ease of access with checking and savings. And it allows you to have certain features like direct deposits. Your payroll can be set up with your bank. You can get easy access to cash with ATMs. You can get debit cards, checkbooks set up so that you have ease of access as far as kind of just utilizing your income from day to day. And that's just all stuff that you would find at banks and credit unions. Managing your checking or savings accounts. So just some things to take into consideration here. You're going to be basically kind of using your checking account. Savings account would be kind of more like that emergency cushion a lot of the time, but checking, you just need to be kind of making sure that you're taking into account the balance and making sure that there is a good amount of room in the account month to month. Usually like what I often hear is like, ideally you've got about like 3 months of at least your housing payment in the bank account, just to make sure that you have a buffer. Then there are things that you just want to be taking into consideration, like even when you're opening it up for the first time. So there are things like minimum balance requirements. How much do you have in there? Are there monthly maintenance fees that you're going to have to pay? Are there ways to avoid that? So in some cases, like if you have a certain amount as far as balance on the regular, you can avoid certain fees. Same with if you've got like a direct deposit of a certain amount set up month to month, you can avoid certain fees. So usually like if you're reading the fine print, it can make sure that you're managing it in the most efficient, most affordable way where you're not necessarily going to have to pay anything monthly or annually. You also just want to be making sure that you're registering the balance, as mentioned before, so that you're not having to pay any fees on any accidents as far as overspending. So a non-sufficient fund fee would basically be kind of when you bounce a check. So you write a check to somebody, you don't actually have that amount that you wrote it out for. Check bounces, you're penalized for that. Overdraft fee would be an example of where the money did go through, but now your account is in the negative. And so it can keep going into the negative because now you're paying fees on that. So these are things that you'd want to be making sure that you avoid. Even in some cases, when you're first setting up the account, setting up something like overdraft protection so you don't have to worry about that. So other product services kind of along these lines. So as I was saying, kind of one of the things that's really helpful about the checking account is it's basically a place where you can really be managing your money in specific ways and taking advantage of some of the things associated with having a checking account at a bank. So money order would be a great example. If you're having to make a very large purchase or even have something set up where maybe you have to be doing a security deposit, there's a good chance in a lot of those scenarios that somebody may be saying, we require a money order for this transaction, where you'd basically be having to pay a little bit potentially for the money order to get one. But that would be basically like a very secure way to do the transaction, especially when we're talking about a lot of money and having a record of it. Other thing that you could be thinking about as far as like some of the savings accounts. So on the first slide on this, I was talking about it depends as far as like how much interest is growing over time in terms of the type of savings account. So sometimes people will open up certificates of deposit. So this is where you would trade the liquidity for having a higher interest as far as what you're getting back in terms of what you're putting in. So what that means as far as less liquidity is that you have less access to the account for a certain period of time. You would have to pay fees if you access it too early. But if you leave it alone for, say, like a 3-year period, and then that's when that time frame ends, and then you go in, what you'd be saving would be basically gaining more interest in the usual savings account. Last thing just to mention would be check cashing services. So if you're not using a bank account. So I think 6% of Americans are considered unbanked. In a lot of cases, if you're having to establish maybe some history before you're able to get an account, if you ran into trouble with a bank account and aren't able to open up one currently, there are different reasons that can come up. You might have to go to currency exchange. Sometimes places even like Target, different retailers do this, where you can basically be getting like a paycheck cash, but you're going to be having to pay usually a fee for it. Sometimes it's something small. Sometimes it's an actual percentage of the paycheck. So it's one of those things where, like, if you can be opening up an account for the direct deposit, it helps avoid things like that.
Okay, good information on checking and savings. We're going to switch next to prepaid cards. And if you have a checking account, you might have a debit card. And I think of a prepaid card sometimes similar to a debit card in but people usually say for a prepaid card, we're loading money onto the card. That's the term that's used. We're loading, or the card is loadable. Well, that money doesn't go physically on the card. Of course, it goes into an account associated with the card, but all of your services with that account then need to be, or all your transactions need to be done with that card in particular. But prepaid cards can have their place, certainly. It is a secure place to store money. You don't have to carry the card versus the cash. And there are different features with different cards. We're going to go over different kinds of cards here momentarily. You can have your payroll directly deposited onto a payroll card. Sometimes benefits, government benefits are loaded. We're going to talk about those. You can easily access your cash, possibly at an ATM, or just simply by using the card at a retailer to pay for purchases or services. And some of them actually offer a virtual set aside or savings option. And being a housing counselor, I love savings. So I always recommend that savings are very important to do. They can help you in the case of an emergency. And so if that option is available on the prepaid card, then that's something you might want to take advantage of. Where would you find them? Well, we're going to go over the different kinds of cards, but you can find them at retailers, excuse me, online, check cashing stores, financial institutions, employers, government offices, even colleges. Let me go into the different kinds of cards that there are out there. Some of you, years ago, one of the first ones that came out was called the Green Dot card. And so that card was usually found at a store. You would buy the card and you would load money onto the card, so to speak. And then you could use that card anywhere that accepted. If there was a logo on the card, like a Visa or MasterCard logo, you could use it anywhere where Visa or MasterCard was accepted. So you would have that card. It would be a card representing all the money that you have loaded onto it. Doesn't allow you to take more money. It's only the money you have actually loaded onto the card that you can use. And now there's a whole bunch of other cards that are out there that are like that, like the Green Dot. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about the details. There's open loop cards, again, usually ones that have a Visa or MasterCard logo on them. You can use them in a variety of different places. So they're what you might call open. And that's opposed or different from a closed loop card. Closed loop is where you can only use it at a particular store or maybe a group of stores that work in combination. I have seen some closed loop restaurant cards that represent a variety of different restaurants, maybe like 4 or 5 different restaurants, and you could use that card at any of those restaurants, but you can't use it anyplace else. A gift card for a store, like a gift card for Kohl's, would only be able to be used at Kohl's, so that's a closed loop card. And of course, cards are reloadable. You use the money on them, you can reload them. There are some employers who offer payroll cards. I know I had a client once who worked at Applebee's part-time, and they offered her a payroll card. So her money went right onto her payroll. There are government cards, and there's a couple of different kinds of cards. One is a prearranged prepaid card that's used by a government agency to load benefits. And examples of that would be like unemployment benefits, child or spousal support payment benefits that are coming to you. So that's one type of government card, but another type is the electronic EBT or electronic benefits transfer card. Those are associated for needs-based programs such as SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, it used to be called food stamps, or TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Program. So certain types of government programs use a particular kind of card. And then there's also college ID cards. When my oldest daughter was going to college, I saw her pay for something using her college ID card and asked her about it. And yes, so she went, I think it was called Quick Cash for her college program. She would load money onto that Quick Cash card, or it was really her college ID. And she could use it on campus or at any local retailers that accepted that form of payment. So that was sort of pretty cool card. Made it easier for her she didn't have to carry cash with her, or other cards. Really important to understand your cards and what are the fees associated with them and where they can be used. Very important to also know what your balance is. Cards offer you different ways to check your balance, so it might just depend on the card that you have. Some offer you can check your balance by phone or online or simply by using a mobile app. It seems like a lot of places are going to mobile apps these days. You might be able to check your balance by text, or you might be able to get alerts by text that your balance is low, or maybe by going to an ATM machine. One of the most important things to be aware of with prepaid cards is the fees. You know, when you have a debit card associated with a checking account and you use your debit card at a store, I've never heard of any fees associated with any bank or credit union that, charges you a fee for using your debit card. Now, if you go to an ATM outside of the ATMs associated with your bank or credit union, there might be a fee associated with that. But with the prepaid cards, there tend to be more fees associated with them. There could be a monthly fee, or there could be a per transaction fee. The client of mine that worked for Applebee's and her payroll was deposited onto her payroll card, she received one free transaction with every deposit that was onto her card, or every month. I think maybe it was every month. One free transaction, and every other transaction that she did with that card carried a fee. So what she would do is she would take the payroll and get her free transaction and transfer the money into a checking account, which seems like a lot of extra work to me. She really should have had direct deposit into her checking account, but she didn't. So that's how she managed it and got around the fees. Really important, though, to understand those fees, understand how you can check your balance, understand all of the terms and conditions that you're using. If you end up with one of those cards and you need a little help assistance, understanding all of that, the counseling team, would be more than happy to assist you with that. And next topic is credit cards. And we did have a question. So John, take it away for the credit cards.
Yep. So talking now about credit cards. So what is the purpose of credit cards? There are a few things. So at kind of the base would just be that it allows you to buy things now and pay for it later, even over time, with just month-to-month payments. You don't have to carry cash. You can just use your card for whatever you're doing kind of day to day. And then the big one would be creating or rebuilding credit history. So credit helps you out with just a huge amount of things. Credit card is a great way to basically establish credit, pay history, utilization, also considered available credit. and all those things. Where can you get these? You can usually be getting them at retailers, banks, credit unions, online credit card companies. We're going to kind of break down some of those options in the next slide. Quick thing I would just say as far as the online resources out there, there's some great ones. Check out things like Bankrate, Investopedia, NerdWallet.com. You can often do like best of lists in 2021, and they'll do like kind of pro con comparisons of different credit cards. So you can really look for what you want. And in the next slide, I'll kind of start breaking down what you'd be looking for specifically. I mentioned that there's a variety of places you could be going, and here's kind of what you would expect. So you could be going with retailer cards. So if you're going to like a major store, your usual, like it can be anything from like Home Depot to Menards to Target to Walmart. A lot of them have even clothing, department stores, et cetera. A lot of them have basically their own credit card that works within kind of their shopping framework and gives you rewards for shopping there with that card. So that's usually the incentive of getting a credit card there and using it there. So it'll do things like give you money off your first purchase, give you reward points for shopping there that you can use, cash back things, kind of et cetera, as far as what you can be using it for. You can also be getting a credit card from your own financial institution, your own from a bank or a credit union. Basically, this is the same thing as far as having kind of incentives that are often based on rewards. So different ones will have kind of different, sometimes you build up points, you get cashback rewards, things like that, as far as what you can be using different credit cards for. So an example would be like some credit cards with banks like have points that you can be using actually for travel. So let's say you been using a credit card for a while, you check your points and realize like you could basically be getting a free plane ticket to some place that you wanted to go on vacation. There are also just general kind of credit card company cards. This would be kind of falling into the same ballpark as far as what I just mentioned with what you're looking at with retailer and bank. So even if it's not associated with like your said bank, it may be something associated, just a general financial company or institution. A quick breakdown, though, is like the things that you're kind of looking at comparison-wise are going to be the annual percentage rate in terms of what you're going to be paying month to month if you're not paying the full balance. Are you having to pay an annual fee? Do you get rewards? Where can you shop with the card? And how large is the network? So there are 4 major networks. 2 of them actually issue their own cards. Others would be kind of on the bottom right. That would be MasterCard, Visa, American Express, and Discover. But that's like if you were going to like one of those websites I mentioned, kind of the comparisons that you'd be making. Now, secured cards, this would get into that area where if you need help establishing credit, like say for the first time, a secured card would be the way to do it. So a secured card is basically if your credit score is too low, maybe to qualify for most credit cards, or you don't have any credit history at all, you'd basically be putting up the money to create that line of credit. So it's something that you have to pay out of pocket, but then when you're using that card, you're developing a payment history and you have available credit, which helps out your score. And that is what starts showing up on a report. And then you're able to use. So I've had clients that they'll take out a secured card. Maybe in a couple of months, they'll also do a secured loan. And a secured loan would be where you make the payments first and then get the loan that you took out. And that builds up payment history. And so then they can either be reestablishing credit if they ran into some problems or even establishing credit for the first time. Quick other thing I'll add to that question. One common thing that people do, especially like if it's, kid going to college and needs get a credit card or something like that, a parent or family member will just put them on a credit card that has a lot of history, and then they basically take all of that history with them. So managing your cards. So basically, like the really important thing here is taking into consideration that you really get the most out of it if you're able to pay the balance off every month. If you're not, that's where the interest on the card, the APR, is going to build up over time. So you want to make the minimum payment if possible, just so that you're not late, because payment history is a large part of the FICO score. It's 35%. But if you can pay it off every month, the other big thing that it helps you out with is available credit. If you have very low balances on your card month to month, available credit is 30% of the score. So again, like on-time payments, 35%, available credit, 30%. If you're paying the balance off every month, you're tackling both of those things. So sometimes a great way to be doing credit is just making a plan where you just use it for like one particular purchase and pay it off immediately to really be keeping your score up. Otherwise, like if you've got to be making that small payment, you really want to make sure that you're at least hitting the minimum so that you're not getting any late fees or anything like that. And you want to make sure that you kind of have a timeline as far as how long it's going to take you to pay off a certain balance, so you're not accumulating too much debt. And you also want to be cautious about using the credit card so much that you would go over the credit limit that you have and having to pay fees on that. So we've talked about a few different things here. And if we were to be comparing kind of prepaid cards versus debit cards versus credit cards, pretty much like the quick of it would be prepaid cards, you're using money loaded onto the card in advance. Debit cards would be linked to your checking account, and prepaid cards at least don't allow you to spend more money than you have. So you at least aren't risking like an overdraft. However, as the next box here points out, you can, in some cases, if the bank allows it, opt into things like overdraft protection to avoid things like that. Big thing though, as far as like the debit card versus the prepaid card to me, would also just be the fact that the debit card means that you've got a bank account that's really going to have some established history, especially if you're making big purchases in the future. Sometimes they need to see documentation on what you have in overall assets. And so it really helps if you have that kind of base versus a prepaid card only. Same thing again with like the credit card part of it, comparison. Prepaid cards, like the big thing is that it allows you not to spend more money than you have. Credit cards, there's that little bit of a risk that you're going to be building up debt that you then have to figure out how to be paying back. The big advantage of the credit card, though, is that you're building credit history that allows you to do things in the future, especially if you're looking into investments like a home, getting a car, just various different things.
Okay, thank you, John. We're going to talk about loans. When we talk about loan, a loan is usually referred to as an installment loan. An installment loan means it has a beginning and an end, whereas credit cards are considered revolving. And revolving means that you charge something, the balance goes up, you pay it off, the balance goes down. You charge something more, the balance goes up, you pay it off, the balance goes down. And so loans usually have a beginning and an end, typically for larger purchases. But you can get personal loans as well. But anyway, so the main purpose, of course, with a loan is that you are getting the money to buy something now, but you're going to pay for it over time. And you don't have to carry the cash. Of course, if you have a large purchase, you're generally not going to have that kind of cash that you want to carry around with you, obviously. And loans, depending on where you get the loan and who they report to, could be reported to one of the three major credit bureaus or could be reported to all three. But the nice thing about that is it's a different kind of debt than your revolving debt, your credit card debt. And it's a small contributor to credit score, but one of the things that contributes to your credit score is having different kinds of credit that appear on your credit report. So you can be building your credit history or simply improving your credit scores by having a loan. Where would you find them? You find them in banks and credit unions. Home loans would be at mortgage companies. Also banks and credit unions. You can find them online. Auto loans can be found at car dealerships. You can get them at payday lenders, not the best place, but high interest rates at payday lenders. Or you can get them at auto title lenders. And you can get auto title loans at banks and credit unions too, usually for a lower interest rate than a standalone auto title lender. One thing to mention, those payday lenders and auto title lenders, their percentage, their interest rate has been capped now at 36%. It just went into effect in Illinois this year, 2021, went into effect in Wisconsin about a year ago. So that's a big improvement, at least to those areas. Some examples of loans, many loans are secured. Secured means that there's collateral for the loan. And if you were to default on the loan or stop paying, they come and take your collateral. So examples of that might be an auto loan or a home loan. There are different kinds of home loans. There's a regular typical mortgage that would be referred to as a first mortgage, and especially if you have a second mortgage, which would be a home equity loan. Those loans, of course, are in your home as security for those loans. If you don't pay on those loans, of course, they come and take your home. So that's obviously the downside on not paying on them, but not for missing one payment necessarily. You'd have to miss more than one payment. But if there's a consistently not paying on the loan, then of course you lose the collateral. And there's the credit builder loan, which John touched on earlier. And that's another great way to build credit. And it also can serve the purpose of saving money, because what happens is you get this credit builder loan at a bank or credit union. They put the money that you're quote unquote borrowing into an account. So you don't have access to that account. And then what you do is you pay off your loan. Over time, when you're done paying off your loan, then you get the money in the account. And if there's any interest that has been earned on that money, some institutions also give you that interest. And in the meantime, as you're paying off the loan month to month, the bank or credit union is reporting your payments to a credit bureau or bureaus, and you are building credit that way. And then, of course, once you're done, you get the money. So kind of has a dual purpose there. Auto title loan, that would be on an auto that you already own, not to purchase the vehicle, but on a vehicle that you already own. You essentially give your title to the auto title loan place, whether that is a standalone place or a bank or credit union, and they give you the money, and then you could use that money to pay for, maybe you're paying for expenses to do repairs, or you're paying for other expenses that have come up for you. It is secured, of course, with the vehicle. And of course, there's also, you could go to a pawn shop and give them a piece of usually smaller property. You're not talking usually there, of course, about an auto or a home, but a smaller piece of property. Maybe it's a valuable ring or a television or something like that. You give them that piece of property. They give you a loan. When you pay off that loan, then they give you the property back. Unsecured loans would be, you could get a personal loan that's unsecured. If you have a good credit score already, and this is going to be defined differently by the different financial institutions as what that they call a good credit score. They might give you a personal loan. That might be something like a $5,000 loan or even less that they would give you. And again, it's an installment loan. You still pay it off monthly. If for some reason you default, they're going to try to collect their money, but there's no security attached to it. Also, payday lenders have no security, although many of them ask you to write a post-dated check that they will cash if you don't pay on that loan, but they're not secured with property, unless that's arrangement that you have made with a specific one. Any financial product that you use, you want to manage. One of the most important things is to make sure that monthly payment, or it might be biweekly, it might not be monthly, But whatever the term is and whatever the payment amount is, you want to make sure that that monthly payment fits into your, I should say, that payment fits into your monthly budget. Or if it's a biweekly payment, it fits into your biweekly budget. That's very, very important. That's probably the most important thing. But I always recommend to my clients that they be also aware of the total cost of the loan. And when you're getting the loan, it's now law that you have to be informed of the total cost of the loan. So you're going to repay the loan, but of course, the business that you're borrowing the money from wants to stay in business and wants to make money, so that you're paying a finance charge, expressed, of course, as an interest rate, but those finance charges are tacked on to the principal balance. So be aware of the total cost that you're paying, and that is spelled out in your paperwork. The only place that I haven't seen it spelled out in the paperwork is for a mortgage loan. But in that case, you can ask your lender, what is my total cost for this? And or you can look it up into an amortization table. It shows you how much you're going to pay in interest. And that's, of course, usually where the biggest thing you're ever going to purchase is a home, and the most amount of interest you're ever going to pay on a product or an item, in this case, a home. That's going to be the most amount of interest you ever pay. So nice to know what the total cost is of the loan. And so you can be aware of what you're doing. Find out if there's any late fees associated with your loan. How much are they? Just so that you can be aware of that. And then, of course, it's always important to know the consequences of not paying the loan. And be aware of all the loan features. The term, that's the length of the loan. The 5-year car loan is 60 months. And, what is your interest rate that you're going to be paying on that loan? What is the payment frequency? Is it monthly? Is it biweekly, et cetera? And what is the due date? So when is it due? So be aware of all those features so that you make sure that you can actually proceed forward and know what you're doing and managing everything, and be on top of things. We're going to switch over to John. John is going to talk about bill payment services.
Okay, so bill payment services, this would basically be where you're setting up to make sure that you've got something that's going to be kind of an auto payment. So usually we have different bills regarding utilities, internet, et cetera. They can really stack up. And if you're trying to manage all the due dates yourself, it can get really difficult to remember everything. If you've got auto pay set up, it just avoids you basically being late on a payment and having to pay anything extra because of being late. So that's basically where you'd be setting it up with either your bank or credit union, or in a lot of cases, just with whoever you're doing business with. You can be getting in touch with your internet provider and basically be making sure that they have an auto pay set up. So again, like this would be kind of giving general ways that you could be getting in touch and starting this via mobile app, by just actually going to the creditor's website. There's also just the old-fashioned way of calling. Sometimes it's good to just get a human being on the phone so that you can just make sure you understand how the auto pay is going to work. And then basically once you have an account set up, that's set up with the auto pay, that's how it's going to work. I would just say one important note on that. When you're setting up the auto pay, it's sometimes good to just check on when the first one is actually going to be going out. So you're prepared. So let's say 5 days before your payment's due, you set up the auto pay. It might actually be starting next month, and you just want to be cautious and make sure that the payment that's due is made so that there's no errors kind of in the interim when this is all getting set up.
The next topic is a money wire transfer. The main purpose is to send money to somebody else. Usually larger amounts of money are handled in wire transfers. They can be done domestically or internationally. Western Union was the major company years ago. Now there's actually lots of companies out there. and different various services. But you can do bank to bank and bank to credit union transfers, or vice versa. So you do that at a bank or credit union. Retailers or check cashing stores that offer those services, or an online provider. I know Western Union now has cash where you can go to see somebody that represents Western Union and do an online or do that wire transfer. They have an online service, and they actually have a mobile app. And there's different amounts that each of those services allow you to transfer as well. But those are, out there and available for you if you need that type of service. And then John is going to cover peer-to-peer payments.
So peer-to-peer payments, basically this would kind of be covering territory where things are kind of advanced to us being able to use technology in different ways to pay people in different circumstances. So maybe you're out to dinner, the friend that you're with gets the check, pays for it, and you're trying to figure out how to pay them back, and they just say, Venmo me. So that would be getting into the next slide. And I'll come back to kind of where you can find it in that same slide too. I think it'd be easier to go through that list. So Venmo would be an example of what's pretty popular because it's a pretty easy to use app. And basically what you'd be doing is just sharing money directly because you've got an account set up with Venmo, somebody else has Venmo, and if you need to split a bill at a restaurant, you just send it via Venmo. Venmo is pretty popular because it's pretty user-friendly, but there are other things out there for peer-to-peer payments that you can use. Let's say you're coordinating a party with somebody and you need to go over expenses and things like that. You might also use something called Zelle QuickPay. Zelle, kind of similar thing. You can use it for transactions like this where you're just trying to pay peer quickly. Its catch is just that it's kind of, it's often set up with a lot of different financial institutions, so banks and credit unions, like what was on that last slide. So the transaction is pretty instantaneous. There's not a lot of waiting around for it. There's a variety of different kind of cash apps that you can check out. I think the thing is that you just always want to be making sure that you have an idea of, like, are there any associated fees, any kind of annual cost, anything like that. Usually things that are a little more known in scope tend to cost less. There are things like PayPal. One of the things that PayPal has going for it is the fact that it's been around for a while. So where you might be in a situation where you have Venmo, but somebody else doesn't, PayPal may have been around long enough where it has one of the larger kind of user bases. And there's even things like Google Pay that people like using because it's actually set up with their Gmail account.
Okay, well, that takes us to the end of the presentation portion of today's webinar. And if you have a few more minutes, we would be happy to answer your questions. A reminder, John, are you going to put that sign-in form link back into the chat? And you can do that. If you fill out that sign-in form, we will actually be sending you a questionnaire that will help you decide which products are right for you, and a document that describes the purpose of various products and how the products work and where to get them. And also, John will be adding to the chat a link to the feedback form. Feedback for us helps us to improve our webinars. So we always appreciate your feedback. And I'm going to switch it, since we're at 12:01, I'm going to switch it right to the questions slide. And little pressure there on you, John. Are there any questions that you would like?
There are. We actually got some good ones during the presentation, so I appreciate everybody's patience. Right. And I have in the chat the intake and the feedback forms shared now, if you want to click on those. So first one that we didn't get to was I heard on the radio in late September and early October and was told I would need $500 for the legal advocate team to process an application for me. Is this true? Or is this something I could do myself once applications become available? This was asked by the same individual asking about half. So I'll preface this with one quick thing. We can't give legal advice, but I can at least put you in the right direction as far as kind of where you would go. And you can always give us a call on Monday to kind of go more into detail about this. There are like processing fees that sometimes legal will go over you with, and it's usually like in the as far as I know. Again, I'm not legal. Anywhere from like a low to mid, a few $100. There's also, if you're getting a private attorney, sometimes a free consultation. Sometimes you'll have to pay a consultation fee, and it'll actually go towards the processing. It all just kind of differs. You also can get a lot of free legal if you're looking for it, though, and there are some eligibility requirements. But there's Legal Aid Chicago, Chicago Volunteer Legal Services. Carpool just as some more local examples, and then there are things that are kind of more out there if you're not in the Chicago area, like Prairie State Legal. So if you want to kind of go over a more nuanced list too, you can always get in touch with the housing counseling agency, and we can be sure to give you some referrals as where you could be going.
Any other questions, John?
Yep. I recently retired and trying to set up and understand IRA accounts. Currently, I'm working with the GLCU financial advisor, but got scared once I started looking at all the terms that are being used. You want me to start, Janine, and you can add?
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, I think that is going to be, I think one of the just difficult things sometimes about investment accounts is that there is a lot to go over. At minimum, like you could be setting something up with the housing counseling department to kind of go over like the base differences in terms of IRA accounts and just some general things to look out for. We technically really aren't supposed to be focusing entirely on investment, and I would kind of strongly suggest talking to an investment advisor anywhere. Most banks or financial institutions that you're sitting down with, because they're looking for you to be investing with them, would kind of give you free consultation and advice to begin with. But it doesn't mean that we can give you a little bit of a base to make sure that you kind of understand the differences in terms of retirement accounts.
Yeah, and if you're working with an advisor, ask them to explain those terms, or if you're having some understanding it, we're always available to help you understand the terms. Probably investments is one area that we don't really cover on a regular basis, because we don't get into that generally. But ask that person to explain those terms to you. And then, if we can help you out, you can always give one of us a call as well. You do definitely want to understand what you're doing before you do it. And I'm just going to leave it there and say, John, how about any more questions?
Yeah. Then in the Q&A, there was, how can you get accepted for a credit card with, yeah, okay, so we got asked that a couple of times, so we went over that.
Is this a secured card for
just to re-answer that would just be getting a secured card or loan. Do Great Lakes Credit Union have credit cards for beginners?
That would be that secured card again. And we do.
Yeah.
Great Lakes Credit Union does. Yes, absolutely.
And again, like, we're always happy to set you up with somebody with GLCU, but to be clear with housing counseling, we can never steer. So usually if you're coming in to talk to us about kind of starting points as far as credit cards for beginners or secured cards, we would want to go through with you kind of a list as far as where you can be making comparisons. And that way you feel like you kind of have your own autonomy and power in making choices. Can you get more than one loan at a time?
I'll just take that, John.
Yeah, please do.
Well, you can, but most lenders are going to look at the debt that you already have or the total debts that you are going to be paying and comparing that to your monthly gross income. Gross is before taxes are taken out. And they're going to want to make sure that when any new debt that you want to create, any new loans that you want to get, that you can handle them. So they're going to be, you're going to pull your credit report. When you apply for credit of any kind, they do a hard pull of your credit report. It does lower your score a few points, just to make you aware of that. But they're going to be making sure that by their standards, your monthly debt payments fit into your monthly budget based on debt payments compared to income. But I always tell people, don't rely on what they tell you is affordable for you. You make sure you understand whether or not you can afford it. That's one of the advantages of talking to a housing counselor, is we're going to help you figure that out if you have any concerns about that. But yeah, so it all depends on your income and the income you have. For mortgage lending, for a home, they call those ratios, debt to income ratios. So yeah, good question. And hopefully that I answered that adequately. John, anything else?
Yeah, I would say that you may have covered this a little bit, but I would just reemphasize like the fact that it's better for your credit if you're giving things a little bit of space. Like when you take something out for the first time, it hurts your score a little bit. If you're doing it with too many things, it just really throws stuff off. And if you have like major purchases coming up, it can actually be a problem. So example would be if you like go to a mortgage lender or something like that, and you've taken out a couple of personal loans and a credit card just within the last month, that would be an issue as far as starting to work together, because they want to see some history on the things you've taken out.
Hey, well, we really appreciate all of you sticking around since we've gone over here a little bit. Again, John and I are from the Housing Counseling Department. To reach us by phone, there's our phone number, 224-252-2620. You can also send us an email, housing@glcu.org. Or if you really want to speak to a counselor and you want to make sure that our counseling services are a good fit for your need or your purpose, you can actually schedule a 30-minute phone call to speak with a counselor. And that's right on our website at glcu.org, and that's the actual web address for scheduling what we call a screening. Again, it's just to make sure that your needs are a good match with our services, so that we are doing what's best for you and providing you with what you need. It's amazing. I had an appointment with somebody last night, and she goes, "What do you do? What are you doing?" And it was a full-blown appointment, not just a screening appointment. And turns out she found out her home that she's living in and paying on was put into her bankruptcy, and she didn't even know it. So sometimes a lot of things come out of these sessions that people aren't necessarily aware of. So, our purpose is to inform, educate, and assist. We love all of that. So we have really enjoyed being with you here today. And we're available for further assistance per the slide, contacting us. Love to help you out with any issue that comes up, or simply if you're just looking at, I'd like to reach this particular goal. I'd like to build my credit. I'd like to buy a home. I would like to prepare for retirement, or I would like to prepare for maybe buying that house or getting an auto loan. Or I would like to make sure that my bills are paid on time. And how do I do that? So we're here and available to help you with all of those things. And any final remarks, John, that you'd like to make?
Just thank you all for your time. And yeah, we're definitely here to help. I feel like just even picking up the phone and giving us an initial call, just like Janine was saying, you can do a quick screening with us just to talk off the cusp before we do a more formal appointment. It just really helps us to get to know you and know how we can help out. And it's just a good starting point. So please be in touch.
Yes, and thank you so much for being here today and for sticking with us, even though we're 12 minutes over. So we really appreciate that you're here today and that you stuck with us a little bit longer. We have appreciated that opportunity to be of service to you and look forward to more opportunities to be of service to you as well. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.